Tying into events wreck the comic? Does it derail everything to the point that it completely interrupts the run and causes real damage? I think so, and I think there's a lot of evidence to prove this in how comics have gone and other things. But creators used to really complain about this, and now they don't. Why is that? Hey everybody, this is Perch. If you have long memory, and not a lot of people in comics do, it feels like at times, you may remember like people like Peter David really railing against Marvel crossovers and events, and talking about how it interrupts his line, and that he would be kind of doing his thing, and suddenly he'd be forced by editorial to do a crossover, and so these issues, these moments, be shoehorned in, and they were painful. They were frustrating, and they disrupted his comic to the point that writers quit over this. That they were so annoying, so disruptive, so bad for the story that it actually caused premature ends to runs because they were so terrible. But somewhere along the lines, about 10, 15 years ago, and I'm going off memory here, but I may be wrong. I recall there being I think Brian Michael Bendis at a con was talking about how you had to embrace the event. By the way, please somebody in the comments let me know if I've got this person wrong, but I think it was Bendis, maybe wrong. But that the events are here to stay. The events shouldn't be seen as a disruptor, shouldn't be seen as something that interferes with a comics run, but rather something that gives it an opportunity to reach another audience, and maybe get bigger, and maybe help it survive longer, and that people need to look at it a different way. It felt very much like a lemons out of lemonade kind of quote. And I'm pretty positive it's Bendis, but let me know. But it seemed like around that time, and then 10 years kind of passed, and you look at what's happened. So Marvel is in forever events. They do multiple events a year now. And I use this example when I was going through the Avengers run. Like him or dislike him, take a look at Al Ewing's Mighty Avengers run. And he had two of them. He did Mighty Avengers, and then it got canceled and then relaunched after a very small handful of issues. And in both of those, his comic had like what felt like a billion tie-ins. It tied in with Infinity. It tied in with Axis. It tied in with Secret Wars. It tied in with several other Original Sin. He's at least, and I may be mistaken, but it's close to, if not half of the issues had a tie-in. It was interrupted by these other events, and it hurt the story. No matter what kind of happy smile you wanted to put on it, Al Ewing had a point that he was trying to get to with his comic. He had a story he was trying to do, and these tie-ins felt forced, inorganic. They just didn't come across great. Again, even if you love Al Ewing, I think you'd be hard pressed to say no. Everything is fine here. It played out just perfect. It didn't feel that way. It felt hamstrung. And yet we hear very little from creators now who say, hey, this event stuff really gets in the way of the run. It really interferes with what I'm trying to do as a creator. And part of it may, again, just be pragmatic. Look, you know when the battle is lost. Their events are not going away. So to rail against them and complain about them just kind of it's clear at this point that Marvel editorial will punish you if you make those statements. And so you're better off just going, all right, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I guess we're crossing over with, what is it today? Oh, it's, Kang's Revenge, Part 2. We're going to cross over. Okay, so let's see how we get Spider-Gwen to cross over with Kang, but who knows? That's just kind of where things have landed. I don't think it's healthy for comics. When you look at runs, and you look at runs that are peppered with constant events and tie-ins, they don't achieve an audience. The wisdom of, hey, this will expose people to a bigger audience because people who are buying the event are going to check out these books they normally wouldn't check out. I don't think any of that is true, and I think the sales now firmly show that. If we're going back to 2005, sure, I think there was some evidence that these events, or these comics sometimes benefited from a guest star or an event or anything else. You could see the sales bumps, but not anymore. You do not see the sales bumps. In fact, if anything, if we're looking at some of the more recent events, you see the opposite. You see some sales decreasing during the events. You see a steeper drop off following the events following the crossover's conclusion. People kind of come in and then they're like, enough, and they're out. And that's just kind of how the world of comics sits these days. So it's I think that the value here is just a lot less than advertised. It's one of those cases where, sounds good in theory, maybe some old logic applied that no longer applies, that people are just still working with, and it's time to retire this idea that the events, have any value whatsoever to actually improving the quality of a run or the sales. And at the end of the day, it is about sales. It's about trying to get a bigger audience that can be, leveraged and sell more books. But if you're shedding these readers as fast as they're coming in, then you're really getting nowhere. And that's where it feels to land. But what about you? Do you like event crossovers? Do you think there's value in them still? Am I being unfair in all this, or is there more to be said? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you like event crossovers, if you think they're I'm making too big a deal out of it, they're not harmful to anything, or if they actually do have a negative impact. I want to hear your thoughts. Are there event crossovers you liked? Let me know those as well. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch. Most importantly, thanks for listening.